So it's a rare occurrence that a movie comes out and completely and totally takes over my life. I can't get it out of my head days and weeks after seeing it only one time. The most recent movie to do that for me was Joker Folie, Deux. And I know that this movie has gotten raked over the coals online. And there are a lot of good reasons for that. But I kind of want to explain why I think it's brilliant. Hey, what's up everybody? Nick here, and today I wanted to discuss Joker Folie, Deux in a little bit more detail and respond to the criticism and why I think the movie is actually really good. First off, I just have to say, look, does not shock me at all that when a movie comes out that is controversial, sometimes I end up loving it, and then I get comments about, oh, of course Nick loves this, and it's like, one, I'm not trying to go out and love these things. It's not like I'm like, oh, everyone's going to hate it. I can't wait to love it. That's not a real thing. That doesn't happen. People don't just willingly open themselves up for criticism like that simply just for attention. I mean, I guess there are people that do that. If you've been following my channel for any amount of years, you know that that is not me. I am totally blunt, totally honest. I always tell you guys what I think, whether that's positive, negative, or middle of the road. I am always honest and upfront with you guys. For example, Halloween Ends. Yes, I loved that movie, but I saw it the earliest showtime on that Thursday before the fan reaction had even come out. So I didn't know fans were going to be split on that movie. The only thing I had seen about that movie going into it was Lee McCoy's out of the theater reaction tweet that he put, which was just a jack-o'-lantern emoji and a thumbs up. That was it. I did not know anything else about the movie's response and reception until after I got out of the theater and posted my review on Twitter and then on YouTube and saw the barrage of shit that I got for that. So it's not a real thing, guys. I was actually kind of nervous for Joker 2 simply just because I had heard a lot of weird things about it. Are we really going to go into this fantastical musical element? What is this going to mean? Is this even going to be coherent? Is it going to make any sense? So although I was a huge fan of Joker and it was my second favorite movie of 2019, I had my reservations about Joker Folie, Deux. And I'm happy to say that I loved the movie. And if you guys watched my non-spoiler review or you follow me on any social media forum, you know that I loved it already. But why did I love it? Why? What is it about this movie that made me love it? First, I want to address the criticisms the movie has gotten because I do feel like some of them are fair, but I feel like they're almost all about expectations. And I don't feel like when you actually parse that out, it is a good enough reason to say the movie is a bad movie. Look, everybody was expecting a true sequel to Joker. And in my opinion, I feel like you get that in a lot of ways. But I think they wanted it more in terms of, I want to see Joker really become Joker. The kingpin of Gotham, the clown prince of crime. I want to see him break out. I want to see him create havoc. I want to see this uprising really take hold in this city. I didn't have that expectation going into this movie because I knew that was just wholly unrealistic. The guy was on trial and incarcerated for multiple murders that he committed in the first movie. That was just, he was not going to be out and about doing these things. So I already felt like that expectation is not fair for this movie. But that's not it. A lot of people wanted a true Joker story. See, Joker 2019 in a lot of ways seemed like a Joker origin story, and you thought, well, the next thing you do after that is you show us Joker now, that he is fully Joker, and where he goes from there. But Todd Phillips never intended 2019's Joker to truly be a Joker origin story. And when people have said after this movie has come out that they don't make sense, the two of them together, and that it was basically a complete waste of time, I push back on that really, really hard because Joker 2019 was Arthur Fleck's story. It was not the Joker's story. At no point in that movie is Arthur Fleck the clown prince of crime. He just isn't. That's never been a thing. That wasn't even alluded to. Joker was a moniker, was a symbol. Joker was a mask he wore. Arthur Fleck is a mentally unstable individual. Arthur Fleck is somebody that he's not actually this mastermind, this genius. He's a psychopath. And he felt emboldened by the response of the Joker. So he leaned more into that to almost live with the shame and the guilt and the regret, or just not have to live with it at all, of the things he'd done. That was the whole point. These two movies were always about Arthur Fleck. They were not about the Joker. Yes, it was titled Joker. I get it. But Joker is more of an ideal. It is not actually the Joker from the comic books that everybody knows and loves. Now, when some say that's not what I wanted, I can respect that. I can understand that. You might have truly just wanted a more straightforward Joker origin story, and then seeing the Joker become what we knew the Joker to be. But I guess for me, this was always labeled as Elseworlds for DC. This was never going to be connected to anything else. The first movie was rated R. It was incredibly tonally different than anything we had seen done with this character at this point in live action. So you automatically are told this is not what you're expecting. After the first movie, though, even though it was a big swing and very different, a lot of people really loved it. If you were going to make a sequel to that movie, you could only do one of three things. A, you stay the same as the first movie. You have nothing new to say, nothing new to do, and people just get bored. B, you decide that you're going to go back more in line with the comic book Joker and really try to make this an actual DC villain, and then it just becomes kind of antithetical to what the first movie was. Or C, you go, the first one was a big swing. What if we swing even bigger? And that's what they did here. And in doing that, it understandably pissed a lot of people off. Like I said, while I understand some of the criticism and the people's bewilderment at how big of a swing this movie was, I have to push back on a few things. First and foremost, the title alone tells you all you need to know. Folie à Deux means a shared madness, the madness of two when translated. And a lot of people thought that meant, oh, that's Harley Quinn and the Joker, right? No. Folie à Deux with this movie means the shared madness of Arthur Fleck and the Joker persona. That is exactly what it means. He is in a dance with himself. It is all up here. The shared madness of two, ironically being just one. And Arthur going along that journey, realizing that he isn't the Joker. He was never the Joker. He's Arthur Fleck, and he used that as a shield to do the things he did to try to make himself feel better, or that he was doing something of importance, when in reality, he was just leaning into the darker sides of humanity and acting irrationally, unfairly. I've said many times that his story is tragic in a lot of ways in the first movie because he is mentally ill, and he was abused and really had a terrible upbringing, and then society turned its back on him. Absolutely. I also said, though, that nobody has a right to do the things that Arthur did. That's a cop-out. You are accepting the life you have, and you're saying, well, I guess I'm just going to blow it all up then. When, normally as humans, we should look at that and go, what can I do to get out of this? Is it possible? Arthur never tried to do that. He leaned into his worst impulses and then latched onto an alter ego in order to justify his actions. That is what Folie à Deux is all about. Unraveling that and understanding you're not the Joker. You never were. You're just Arthur Fleck. Your story is tragic. It is sad, absolutely. But it didn't give you the right to do the things you did. And you have to answer for those things. You're not special. And that is a sad reality. And then more to that point, this movie is so on the nose and meta in its commentary. Because when Arthur decides to come to the realization that he is just Arthur Fleck, he knows he's just Arthur Fleck. He's not the Joker. Harley wants nothing to do with him anymore and walks out on him. His followers begin to lose faith in him. They don't view him as this deity anymore. That's the audience. That was a lot of you guys that didn't like the movie. That was in the movie. Todd Phillips saw that coming. Todd Phillips saw, as soon as you strip away the allure of the Joker, people don't care about Arthur. And sadly, that was the story of his life. It was the story of Arthur Fleck's life the entire time. Nobody ever saw him for who he was, and nobody cared until he became Joker, just like the audience. And as soon as he's no longer Joker and realizes he was never Joker in the first place, nobody cares anymore. And I feel like that's brilliant. I genuinely find that to be such good commentary. Like, Todd Phillips knew. He saw it. He knew what people were here for. And some people say, well, that makes him a dick, because he's basically saying F you to the fans. He's saying F you to your expectations. He's saying F you to your cookie cutter comic book movie. Look, that's not necessarily a bad thing. This was always a self-contained story. We were never going to get more sequels after this. This is not going to be in the broader DC universe. This was just supposed to be a one-off. And then Warner Brothers were like, please, 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 for years to Todd Phillips. So he finally came back, so long as he could do what he wanted to do. And he definitely did what he wanted to do here. So that multi-layered commentary is really, really interesting. And I find it to be actually really relevant. Todd Phillips wasn't saying, I hate the Joker character and I hate all the fans. He was saying, sometimes you guys need to accept that not everything is as it seems. And maybe, just maybe, subverting expectations and trying to do something wildly different might have a lasting impact. And if you're still upset about it and you say, well, that's not fair, Todd Phillips blindsided us. He made a movie about a character that we all know and love, so we had expectations. Blame Warner Brothers, not Todd Phillips. That one movie was supposed to be it. That was it. And they came to him and begged him to come back. And he accepted under the pretense that I can do whatever I want. I've also seen a lot of people have issue with Lady Gaga in this movie. They say that she didn't get enough screen time. There wasn't enough for her to do. I don't really see it that way. Look, I feel like she had plenty of screen time personally. I actually do. Like, I feel like she did. This is Arthur's story. He is the lead. But I felt like she had plenty of screen time. I also just can't understand when people say they didn't have good chemistry. I definitely think they had good chemistry. Like, I was enthralled when they were on screen together. I loved their dynamic. But the point of her character was not to be the driving force of this story. The point of her character is to be like you, the viewer. You love the Joker. You don't love Arthur Fleck. You want to see the Joker kill people, commit crimes. You don't care about Arthur Fleck. She is the exact same way. She is the embodiment of that viewer. And as soon as she comes to the realization that he truly is just Arthur Fleck, she doesn't care anymore. That's sad. That sucks. But it is so true. This idea that this was going to be this mad love story where they were just going to die for each other and kill for each other and all these things, that was just never realistic. It wasn't going to happen. Not in this universe. I don't understand why some people felt blindsided by certain things that happened in this movie, because I feel like Phillips in the first movie really made it clear this is not a Joker origin story. This is not that. We are talking about classism. We are talking about society. We are talking about mental health. Those were the focal points of that first movie. Not Gotham, not how he's going to go into this life of crime and become a kingpin. That was never set up. That was just not something that I expected from this sequel at all. But regarding Harley Quinn, I feel like she served her purpose in this story because, again, she was the fan. She was a stan. And as soon as he turned out to not be what she thought he was, she wanted nothing to do with him. Also, I myself was worried about the musical aspect. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I kind of always have been, when it was even first announced, simply just because I haven't liked musicals since I was much younger. And I love Grease. Like, there's some musicals I love still to this day, but it's not really my thing now as like a 30-year-old. It's just not something I'm like, I can't wait to see this next musical. The movie is not like that. Like, yes, there are numbers, but it's not like, oh, everyone's going to break out in song and dance and there's going to be this big set piece in the middle of a scene. It's actually happening. No, most of the musical numbers in this movie are in their heads because they're insane. Like, and that was what I always told myself when they announced it was going to be like a quasi-musical. I was like, I already know how this is going to go. You're already insane. Now you're locked away. Your mind is racing. And a lot of these things are going to just be fantasies. Like, you're just living out fantasies because you're crazy. Like, I saw that coming. And I saw complaints online about that. Like, oh my God, all this stuff was hallucinations. Just ridiculous. This is BS. You didn't expect that? You didn't expect the mentally ill person locked up in Arkham to be hallucinating these things? You actually thought these musical numbers were going to be taking place? There was going to be the Joker and the Harley show? Like what? I just don't feel like that criticism is fair at all. And when it comes to the musical aspect, based off of the idea of this movie, of this shared madness between Joker and Arthur, between this fan culture, between mental health and how we handle it and deal with it as a society, and what that can drive people to do, where their minds can go when they are sadly insane, when they've lost it, I felt like it worked. Like, it just felt like it worked for these characters. It worked for this movie and it worked for this universe. That's not to say that every musical number was a home run. There were a few that I was like, I don't really know if this is adding to it, but mostly I felt like they worked and they added to this movie. And then the last point I want to address is Arthur's death at the end. A lot of people were really pissed about that because, again, they thought that he was going to go on to be the Joker. Like, this was his origin story. To have him just killed like that at the very end, he bleeds out and dies and the movie's over. Like, that's just like, you're flipping off the fans, basically. Again, I didn't take it that way, guys, because I felt like Todd Phillips made it very clear with these two movies that, again, the Joker was an ideal. The Joker was a mantle. It wasn't specific to one person. Arthur had his time, or so he thought, and then he just was Arthur. Because in reality, he always was Arthur. And the Joker is more to inspire people. The guy that killed him is presumably the new Joker now, as we see him cutting his face with the knife. Like, it was never that Arthur was the Joker. So that ending, although it kind of sucked for me personally, because I actually really did feel bad for the character of Arthur in both of these movies. And I wanted to see him show remorse and I don't know, try to be better. I don't know. I guess that's the optimist in me. And he didn't even really get the opportunity. And, you know, that sucks. But again, that's life. Like, I mean, sometimes we don't get to atone. Sometimes it's not all sunshine and rainbows. I mean, the use of the song That's Life is literally perfect in this movie because, guys, life at times can be harsh and cruel and unforgiving and unexpected. And again, I just feel like that's another theme that Joker Folie plays on so well. But this video wasn't made for me to tell you that you're wrong for not liking it. I understand that a lot of people had expectations or hopes and dreams with the movie and it just didn't deliver that. And you're never going to like a movie if it wasn't what you had hoped for. I get that. I guess what I'm saying is, I feel like a lot of the criticism at this point is just people piling on because it's the popular thing to do. And I've always hated that mindset. That, you know, that's a hive mind mentality. And I just can't get behind that shit. I want people to think for themselves. I want them to give something a second chance or give it a first chance, no matter what they've heard about it online. Because understand that no matter how loud the voices are telling you should or shouldn't like something, that doesn't mean that you have to listen. Now, if you already gave it a chance and you hated it, more power to you. At least you gave it that chance. But please, stop saying movies are just genuinely awful, terrible movies with no redeeming qualities simply because they zigged when you thought they were going to zag and they didn't give you what you wanted to see. What you had hoped for, what you had built up in your mind wasn't what you saw, so you had to just trash it and call it a piece of shit. That's just not fair because there's so much about this movie that is technically incredible. I mean, we could go through the cinematography, the acting, the colors, the set pieces. There's so much about this movie that is like top tier filmmaking. The score, oh my God, the score. Again, hey, it wasn't for me. Objectively, it's a really well done movie. It really is, but it wasn't for me. But people are talking about this movie like it was freaking Morbius, man, or Madam Web. That's what it's being compared to. And they're just not the same at all. But look, I understand that this movie was vastly different than what people thought. I understand that it's a massive swing that I know is going to have a cult following 10 years from now. I know it will. I also know that 10 years from now when I look back and see all these people saying, like, you know what, I really like this movie now, I'll be happy to say, I was there day one, man. I was there day one. I understood from the first Joker movie where this was probably going to go. And it wasn't going to go the way a lot of comic book fans or fans of the Joker thought it was going to. It was just never going to be that. And if you check your expectations at the door, and you also pay attention more to the first movie, I think some of the things that happen in this movie will make a lot of sense. But I already know the comment section on this one is going to be flooded with negativity, and that's fine. I really don't care. Like I said, I'm not trying to change your guys' minds. I'm just trying to explain to you why I find the movie to be brilliant and why I think that a lot of people just miss the mark with their critiques about this movie. But I want to hear down below what you guys thought. Did any of the explaining I did about this movie help you like see things differently, or do you still hate it? Or have you loved it since you first saw it and you said, yes, Nick, sing it from the rooftops. This movie rules. I want to hear it all down below in the comments section. And if you haven't given this movie a chance because you heard negative things, still give it a chance. Seriously, do not capitulate to those loud voices on the internet telling you not to waste your time, because guess what? You might find that it's not a waste of time. You might love it. But hey, that's life. At least that's what the people say. So thank you guys so much for watching this. Please leave a like on this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm pulling out.